Welcome to KSP 2.0.2 for Science, the first major roadmap update for the game containing a massive number of features. You can look forward to a brand new campaign mode, an extensive tech tree, heaps of new research locations, and elusive discoverables spread across the Kerbola system, deadly re-entry, non-wobbly rockets, revamped boat dock, and an array of performance updates and a ton of quality of life improvements. In this video, I'll be giving you a rundown of everything you can look forward to. But let's look at where we came from. My favourite game mode of KSP 1 was Science Mode, but I really liked the idea of Career Mode, getting presented with quests and mission ideas, giving you a better level of motivation and an overall greater sense of context and progression. But the missions felt a bit bolted on and only really half thought out. A lot of them were kind of asinine, like just testing parts at specific altitudes, instead of grand exploration of the cosmos. KSP 2 seems to offer the best of both worlds with For Science. Here, the developers have essentially combined the Science and Career mode into one, Exploration mode. In this, the player will be tasked with unlocking a tech tree to get new technologies and components, and will do this by collecting and returning science points from across the Kerbola system. But in addition to this, you'll be able to visit Mission Control, where Dr. Kerry Kerman will present you with challenging missions to complete, giving you more of a reason to go to a given celestial destination. This, to me, seems to be the perfect way to do things. She'll give you a mission profile briefing you on what to expect, and some ideas about what to do before you embark on your celestial quest, and when everything is over, she'll give you a debriefing and let you know if you fulfilled your objectives. What's very cool is that there is apparently an overarching narrative throughout the missions, aka a story arc of such, which we know has something to do with the Golden Mun Arch, but obviously the update has literally only just been released, so we haven't had much time to explore this too much yet. So let's go ahead and take a look at building something. Here we are in the VAB. Right, yeah, this is a new save and I haven't unlocked anything yet. Well, let's jump over to the R&D building and take a look at the tech tree then. It's split into 4 tiers to give you a sense of progression and what to expect with the technologies you have. This is really well shown in just the background art. Tier 1, you have Kerbin, Mun, and Minmus in the background, implying that these are the places you'll go with this stuff. On to the next tier, Juna is at the forefront, and then, as we move to tier 3, we have the Joule system, followed by Elu in tier 4. Tier 4, of course, being a lot smaller than the preceding tiers because, of course, this game will, hopefully next year, receive updates that'll add colony parts and then eventually things like interstellar technologies, which will appear on tier 4 and presumably even tiers beyond this. Not that this background art should serve as a rigid restriction. I, for one, think a fun challenge would be to see if we can get to somewhere like Elu with just the first tier on the technology tree.
I suspect we're going to see someone like Matt Lowne flying to Elu with this tech level.
Oh, well, okay, I guess I'll have to now. According to Natea, the developers spent a long time trying to pick apart the flaws in the original KSP1 tech tree and build the new tech tree into something much better. One flaw that I think people might point out is the unrealistic fact that you start with crude flights, moving to robotic stuff later. And while I concede that the reverse of this would be more realistic, this is a video game and doing flights with actual Kerbals is much more fun and rewarding, and I think this was the right move. Not that the tech tree isn't without some quirks. For example, I'm not quite sure why this node is called Jumbo Jets when you don't get the actual Jumbo Jet passenger bay or Mark III crew cabin until much later down the line. Though, of course, we are still in early access, and as we progress with development, things may end up getting rebalanced, or there might be mods that shift things about as well. I'd really like to be able to unlock all of these nodes quickly to show you them, but I guess I don't have any science to do so. That's right, it's hacking time! We can just open up our save file and cheat ourselves a small amount of science. Let's say 5 million should be enough, right? Okay, sorry. Excessiveness is just a bit of a bad habit of mine. And you know, breaking bad habits can be a real challenge, right? Well, let me tell you, there is an amazing solution. And no, I'm not talking about listening to the wild rantings from your eccentric neighbor. I'm talking revolutionary stuff. This video's sponsor, Fume. Fume is here to help turn the habit-breaking game on its head, helping you tackle things with a new, more natural approach. Say goodbye to electronic solutions. Fume is here with a delightful experience using nothing but flavoured air, with no harmful chemicals, just 100% all natural and delicious flavours that are out of this world. Fume flips the script, you see. Replace a bad habit with a good one that you can actually enjoy, a new one, which makes the whole thing a lot easier. And speaking of new, Fume has dropped some fresh cores that are worth checking out. Take a gander at these. We have orange vanilla, raspberry lemon, and sparkling grapefruit. Now, I'm going to level with you. When I first heard of Fume, I wasn't sure what to expect, but, I was in for a pleasant surprise. The flavour was fresh and intense, and the device itself was fun to fidget with, and, as all things should be, it was perfectly balanced, made of real wood and sporting a sleek design. Just ask their more than 150,000 satisfied customers and their countless success stories. There's no reason that you can't be the next success story with Fume. Join the Fume community in making the world a healthier place. Grab the journey pack today by heading to tryfume.com/MattLowne or simply scan that QR code right there. And don't forget to use the code MattLowne to snag a fantastic 10% discount. That's tryfum.com. Sponsors like Fume help me keep on doing what I do here, so massive thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. Anyway, let's see if our hacking skills with a Z worked. Oh, this will give us plenty of points to unpack the whole tech tree for us. Bit annoying that we have to do some save file editing to do this instead of just having a cheat menu like we could in KSP 1. I really miss the cheat menu, man. Wait, what was that? There is a cheat menu now! Oh my goodness! This has got to be one of my absolute favourite quality of life improvements to KSP 2. Just hit Alt F8 and there you have it! Oh my gosh! One big reason why the cheat menu in KSP 1 was so important was that it allowed you to easily test individual parts of a mission before doing it. An obvious example being EVE Ascent stages, which are very challenging to design and build, and it simply isn't feasible to keep flying test vehicles out to EVE every time just to see if the design works. Now, we can just teleport chips directly to wherever we want, making it much easier when designing more complicated craft. Joule 5 and EVE returns are now much more feasible. Although this particular EVE lander probably needed a little bit more time in the oven, so to speak. But you guys know me, and I know you guys, and I know you guys know that I know you guys, and I can hear you screaming right now, Matt! What of the wobbly rockets? Are they still wobbly? Do rockets still act like a wet noodle in this new update? Well, let's take a look together, shall we? On screen is not footage from 4Science. This is a rocket I built for my Wobbly Rockets Part 2 video. I think this rocket is pretty realistically proportioned, but it has no struts, because it's a vertical stack. I don't think it should need struts. As you can see, it's a wobbly mess here. And here I am launching the exact same craft file in KSP2 4Science. And lack of wobbliness aside, this is also a great showcase of how much improvement the atmosphere has received since that last Wobbly Rocket video. And look, I don't actually suck at this game. I'm literally trying to make the rocket wobble by doing this horrible oscillating flight path using the massive gimbal range of those vector engines. And I don't know, if we zoom in, I can't really see any significant flexing whatsoever. So I think it's safe to say that the wobbly rocket problem has been absolutely addressed. The developers have implemented a system similar to KSP1's auto strut, although you don't need to do anything yourself. The auto strut is automatically applied to the rocket. You haven't got to right-click components in the VAB and assign auto strut. While enabled by default, if for some reason you like the wobbly rockets of old KSP2, you can actually disable this entirely by going into the gameplay settings on the main menu and disabling the enhanced joint system. And, well, let's see what this does. Here is me launching that same rocket again with the new enhanced joints turned off. Ironically, it seems to now fly even worse than it did before 4Science, but it doesn't matter because I won't be playing with enhanced joints disabled. Oh wow, it is going very badly wrong here, but oh look at that in the background! It's the new docks! I really liked the idea of an ocean launch site when the game first released, but I felt that the design of the docks was a bit bare, and as you can see, vehicles were just not buoyant at all. Everything sank, so there really wasn't much you could even launch from the docks. Here's me unsuccessfully trying to pilot an Ekranoplan pre-4Science. And here's me using the same craft file now. As you can see, the docks look so much better now, and the craft also floats. Doing a little fly around here, you can also see lots of opportunities for more bridge challenge obstacles. We've got that big ring hanging from the crane legs themselves, and there's a couple of warehouses that you could fly through as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the community does with this. But all in all, I'm very excited to try more aquatic stuff in this game. Hey, speaking of aquatic stuff, we can now finally take a look at what was inside that mysterious aquatic sciences node on the tech tree. As many predicted, it is indeed a submersible. Let's check this out. It has a crew capacity of 1 Kerbal and affixes pretty easily to an ocean-going vehicle. Here's a submarine I slapped together and definitely didn't just teleport to Lathe. Here you can see me running the experiment, and look, it's no longer instant. We actually have to wait for the experiment to run. Another take home of this is that this science piece is big, right? You have to consciously design your vehicle around it. You can't just slap it onto the side of your lander like the goo units or smaller experiments in KSP1. In fact, this pretty much applies to all the new science pieces in KSP2. The parts are, in Nate Simpson's words, physically consequential, and you'll have to take their size and mass into consideration when building vehicles. Let's take a look at them now. Starting with the biggest of the bunch, we have the new science lab called Star Lab. This has capacity for 3 Kerbals, though only requires 2 to work, and has all the science tech you could think of. Thermometer, barometer, magnetometer, algae container, mystery goo container, and it even has cup holders. It can run experiments when in orbit and generates orbital survey science. In total, it takes 6 minutes for this thing to do its thing and net you your data. Next up is the diving bell. We already talked about this, so let's shimmy along to this one, the WSRL radiation survey. This one takes 1 minute and requires 6 units of electric charge per second. It performs radiation observations and can be used in any situation and location. This next one along is pretty cool, actually. This is the Mini Lab, basically the automated version of Star Lab. It packs in loads of equipment once again, and like the lab, this is used when in orbit and takes 6 minutes to run, consuming 20 units of electricity per second. Next in line is the return of the much-beloved Science Junior, though thankfully it is a little bit more junior this time around, and integrates into landers much nicer than its predecessor. Other than visuals, this is largely the same piece as in KSP1. It's an environment survey that can be run in all situations and locations, and this is going to be your workhorse for unlocking the early tech tree. This is in fact the only science unit I used to unlock the entirety of Tier 1. If you're struggling to integrate this onto a smaller vehicle though, then check this piece out. The Science Junior Junior. As the name suggests, this is a miniaturized version of the Science Junior and performs the same experiment and yields the same amount of science points as well. Next up, we have the Little Sniffer, an atmospheric survey experiment that takes 2 minutes to run and can be used when flying on any celestial body with an atmosphere. We then have this, which looks like an evolution of the SAS nose cone from KSP1, but this time gives you science. It's called the Air Sniffer, and, as the name suggests, is another atmospheric survey piece usable on any body with atmosphere, taking 2 minutes to run, just like the Little Sniffer. Last up, we have the Sample Grabber robotic arm. Aesthetically, it's similar to the scanning arms we had in KSP1's Breaking Ground DLC, but this time it's a lot more versatile. It's a robot arm that can reach out to obtain surface samples, so no longer will you need to have Kerbals to get surface samples from a celestial body. This can actually take solid and liquid samples, and it only takes 10 seconds to run. Just be careful when using this one though, because right now it does seem to fairly easily flip your lander over if you're not careful. Us content creators that got early access to 4 Science have fed this back to the developers though, and they are aware it's an issue, so hopefully this will be fixed fairly soon. But that's a summary of all the new science pieces that we have in KSP2 for Science. Apart from science, the one other major thing missing from KSP2 up until now was deadly re-entry. There were no thermal effects or part overheating in KSP2 until now. Yes, okay, this has been a very long time coming, but it is finally here, and I can indeed confirm that it's not just visual. You will have to ensure your vehicles have adequate protection from heat when performing re-entry now. We also have temperature gauges, which interestingly look like the old temperature gauges originally used in KSP1, if anyone watching remembers those. One thing I noticed during my initial playthrough was that these will often show up on radially attached batteries during ascent if you don't monitor your speed in the thick parts of the atmosphere, so you'll want to be mindful of this. But that's really all I have to say about temperature. It's just like it was in KSP1. Though I did find that during some testing, my inflatable heat shield exploded when trying to enter Eve's atmosphere, so it looks like Eve is going to be much, much harder to design landers for. Oh joy. But wait, what's it like to play for science then? Like, what's it like running science reports and stuff? Well, I have to say, it is a step up from KSP1 once you've got used to the new UI. On the left of the screen is a little titration flask, and this is what you click to do all of your science. And there's a handy little blue notification light that appears along with an audio cue to let you know if you're able to run new science experiments. For example, as you transition from low to high orbit, you'll get the notification that you can now run more experiments. And then it's merely a simple button press. Once your experiment is run, you'll be able to transmit any data back to Kerbin. Samples, however, can't be transmitted, obviously. Instead, you'll need to make sure your vehicle safely returns home before you can recover it and reap the science rewards. This also applies to any data you didn't transmit at the time of gathering it, perhaps because you didn't have enough electricity to do so. You don't just get science points from the experiments and gathering samples anymore, though. Before any launch, head to the mission control building and grab a science contract from Kerry. There's no money system in KSP2, thankfully in my opinion, so these contracts will just reward you with science. And oh boy, do they give you a lot. In combination with using the Science Junior and having my pilot conduct crew observations and grabbing and completing every contract available, I was able to unlock the whole of Tier 1 on the tech tree in just 3 launches. So I guess the challenge to all of you would be to see if you can do it in just 2. I'm sure it's possible. In fact, I might even go as far to say that I bet ELU is possible after just 2 flights if you unlock your nodes right, though I'll have to investigate this a little bit more. Science can be collected from different biomes in much the same way it could in KSP1. However, the Easter eggs, or I guess the Discoverables as they're now called, also count as their own biome, and you can see that on screen. If we go to the Golden Mun Arch, it acts like its own biome, and if you conduct experiments here, you will get big science rewards for doing so. I don't want to spoil an upcoming video right now, but here's one cool one I found. What in the world could it be? Make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss my voyage to this little spot. But wow, there are so many quality of life improvements in 4 Science. I've already covered how the science experiments feel a lot more substantive than they did in KSP1, but I really love the little sample gathering animation the Kerbals do now. In terms of quality of life improvements in science gathering, it is really nice having that dedicated research action group, so now collecting most science is just a single button click. Also, if you want to do more than one crew report, you don't need to EVA, take the data, and then get back in the pod like you had to in KSP1. I also like how the research inventory gives you an overview of everything you've collected in the mission so far, and stuff like the fact that there is now unlimited sample storage capacity. Quality of life improvements don't just exist in flight though. In the vehicle assembly building, there has been a big upgrade to the Delta V tools, giving you a much clearer idea about the performance of every stage of your vehicle, showing you delta V readout and thrust to weight ratio, and you can set the reading to different celestial bodies and to be in an atmosphere or vacuum, and you can even set the exact specific altitude you want the atmospheric readings to be based on, which, along with that stage-by-stage breakdown, will make construction an absolute joy. Another thing I really like is this. Have you ever started a new save and accidentally left first-time user experience on, so now page shows up all the time and there's nothing you can do except start a new save? Well, this has been fixed now. Firstly, it's been renamed to Cadet Orientation, and while still activated by default, if you forget to uncheck it when starting a new save, you can now disable it at any time in the settings menu. Performance has been greatly improved as well. Frame rates are much higher across the board. There are also now a much greater variety of Kerbal appearances. I guess the art team had lots of free time while the engineers were busy bug fixing. However, speaking of bugs, it's not all sun and rainbows in 4 Science. Some of my creator colleagues, Shadow's Own, N9 Gaming, and Jatwa, discovered some rather annoying issues. Some new, some persistent from previous builds, and some seemingly a regression. Joule seems to be doing weird stuff in this update. N9 Gaming found that his solar panels were blocked by Joule, despite this obviously not being the case. And he also encountered a Kraken attack on Tylo. Reloading this vessel caused crazy spinning and phantom forces on the map screen. Yeah, sadly, a few of us have encountered orbital decay and phantom forces still being present. It looks like this is going to take a while for the devs to squash. He also had this weird glitch where deploying his fairings set the delta V to 0, and then he couldn't plot any maneuver nodes because the game thought he had no fuel. This is a glitch that I have experienced pre-4Science, so it's not new, but still annoying. Shadowzone found a few bugs as well. There's this one, where there's that weird visual glitch upon quick loading, and here you can see the fins of this rocket are heating up during a thermal event, but as the event concludes and there's no more visual indication of it on screen, the temperature of the fins continues to rise, and this isn't only visual. Sometimes this resulted in them actually exploding. He also shared this video of a decoupler not firing properly. In fact, it seems decouplers in general can be a bit buggy, and he suffered from that annoying disappearance of orbital lines glitch. Shadowzone also shared my frustrations with the scanning arm, expecting it to be aware of its orientation like it was in KSP 1, and able to orient its collection instrument down to the surface, rather than just do one specific animation like it does here. I am assuming this is a glitch though, as previous footage seen in previews of 4Science show the arm working as expected. I think there's going to be a patch fairly soon after this update to fix a few things. Annoyingly, this bug is back. Jatwa had that issue where the launch button in the VAB stopped working, a bug that I thought had been fixed ages ago. I don't want to sound too doom and gloom though. One universal experience we found is that quick saving and quick loading is now much more reliable at fixing bugs that happen, and to be honest, my own playthroughs have been pretty plain sailing so far. I haven't really had any major game-breaking stuff happen, hence why I had to use footage from others, so big thank you to Shadowzone, N9 Gaming and Jatwa for letting me use their footage. You'll find a link to their channels in this video's description. They're making their own videos for the 4Science launch too, so definitely check those out. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about 4Science. Overall, I think that this is a massive upgrade to the game because, well, now KSP2 is a game. There's actual progression, context for what you're doing, and you now have a reason to go out and explore the universe. Oh, and as for my comments about getting to Elu after 2 launches, Karnasa sent me a message while I was editing this video to say that he got to Tylo on the first launch, so yeah, it's definitely possible, I guess. And rockets don't wobble anymore. This is huge. Not only do we have a reason to do missions now, but the rockets don't wobble their way to orbit anymore. I really can't stress how happy I am with this. Obviously, this update isn't without its flaws. As mentioned, the decouplers being bugged almost a year after launch is frustrating, and we still have problems like landing gear and solar panels not always deploying unless you quick save and quick load. I'm also mindful of the fact that thermals have been in the works for so long, and yet there already seem to be bugs associated. I'm starting to wonder if my inflatable heat shield was supposed to explode at Eve. I mean, considering my speed and altitude, that did seem unnecessarily cruel. But the positives absolutely outweigh the negatives here, and this update is a massive step forward for the game. I remember that in my last KSP2 video, I mentioned that I would struggle to recommend the game in its current state. But now, I'd say it's definitely worth looking at. In my opinion, this is how the game should have launched into early access. The backlash would have been far less significant, and I'm super excited to see how the game evolves from here. This video was just an overview and wasn't a specific mission like I normally do, so in the next few days you can expect a video from me doing an actual mission in KSP2 4Science, like I normally do, where we go and explore a discoverable and, I don't know, have a fun old time, I guess. And low tech to Elu will be a thing at some point next year as well when I get round to it. I'm a bit busy for the rest of December, so I probably won't have time until January or February, but hey, just hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and then YouTube will just let you know when that video goes up. But I hope you enjoyed this video regardless, and if you did like it, I always appreciate a little thumbs up down below, and big thanks to Fume for sponsoring today, and of course big thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Their names are now on screen. Them and the sponsors help keep this channel running, so yes, I'm eternally grateful for your continued support. Also, next year I'll be running the plushie competition. Remember when I said take a photo of your plushie in a fun place and you could win a copy of KSP2? Well, that's going to be something I do in January. I was kind of waiting for enough time to pass for people to like take their photos. So I haven't forgotten about that. Don't worry. Probably should have said that in like a more prominent part of the video rather than this bit where everyone's clicked off because now the video is over.